We now know what caused the death of NASCAR legend Kyle Busch. Today, his race car, rebranded to the number 33, took to the track at the Charlotte Motor Speedway with a teammate behind the wheel.
Kyle Busch died on May 21, 2026. He was 41 years old. 2 championships, 234 wins, and a final 11 days that nobody saw coming. Not his team, not his fans, not the sport that made him a legend. This is the story of how it ended. It started with a radio call that nobody thought twice about. On Sunday, May 10th, Kyle was racing the Cup Series event at Watkins Glen in upstate New York, driving the number 8 Chevrolet for Richard Childress Racing. For the first time all season, his car was genuinely fast. He was running inside the top 10, making moves, looking like the Kyle Busch that fans remembered from his Joe Gibbs racing years. Then, with a few laps to go, he keyed his radio and asked his team to find a doctor, Dr. Bill Heisel of Ortho Carolina. He needed a shot after the race. His spotter asked whether the doctor should meet him at his car or his motorhome. Kyle said the motorhome. That transmission went out live on the Fox Sports broadcast. Announcer Mike Joy explained it without concern. Kyle had been fighting a sinus cold all week, and Watkins Glen is a road course with elevation changes and punishing G-forces that turn any kind of head pressure into pure misery. Sinus cold plus road course plus 180 mph laps. Comfortable, yes. He finished 8th, his best Cup result of the entire 2026 season. Everyone moved on. But here's what makes that moment feel different now. Bill Heisel isn't a random track medic. He's the director of motorsports medicine at Ortho Carolina and the most trusted medical professional in the NASCAR garage. Drivers don't ask for him by name unless they know exactly what they need. Kyle knew. It was also the day his daughter Lennox turned 4 years old. While a 4-year-old was blowing out birthday candles at home, her father was at a racetrack 2 states away, asking a doctor for help. The clock had already started ticking. 5 days later, on Friday, May 15th, Kyle Busch walked into Dover Motor Speedway and drove like the greatest Truck Series driver who ever lived. Because that's exactly what he was. He qualified on pole. He swept both stages. He led 147 of 200 laps and crossed the finish line more than 3 seconds ahead of Ty Majeski. It was his 69th career Truck Series victory, a record that may never be touched. After the race, Fox Sports reporter Amanda Busk asked him why winning never gets old. His answer now lives in a completely different universe than the one it was spoken in. He said, "You take whatever you can get, because you never know when the last one is going to be. So cherish them all." He said it with a smile. He said it like a man who had been grinding through a difficult stretch in Cup and was just happy to be back in victory lane doing what he loved. In a follow-up press scrum, a reporter asked how many more wins he wanted. Kyle said the same thing again. You never know when the last one is going to be. Twice in the same press session, 6 days before he died, Kyle Busch told the world to cherish every moment because you never know when it ends. Drivers say things like that all the time. It's the same kind of line as giving it 110%. Kyle wasn't secretly aware of anything. He was just a competitor reflecting on the fact that wins don't come as easy as they used to. But context changes everything. Watch that interview back now and those words feel like something a screenwriter would reject for being too on the nose. The next day, Saturday, May 16th, Kyle spoke to reporters again at Dover and admitted he still wasn't feeling right. The cough from the previous week had been substantial, he said, and he still wasn't great. Nobody panicked. He had just won a race the night before. Drivers get sick. Drivers race through it. That's the culture of this sport, and that culture is part of why what happened next caught everyone completely off guard. On Monday, May 18th, Kyle's son Brexton turned 11 years old. Kyle posted a carousel of photos on Instagram, Brexton growing up on racetracks, standing in victory lanes, becoming the young man he was turning into. Kyle wrote that he and Samantha were so proud of who Brexton was turning out to be, and that there was no limit to what the kid could accomplish. That post is still on his Instagram today. It was his last social media post ever. 3 days before he died, Kyle Busch was a father celebrating his son's birthday and writing about how proud he was. The very next day, Tuesday, May 19th, Kyle and Brexton drove to Durham, North Carolina for the grand opening of an Andretti indoor karting facility. Mario Andretti himself was there. A man named Nazdura, who attended the event, later told a local news station that he spotted Kyle and Brexton playing arcade games together and didn't want to interrupt because the moment felt too good to disturb. Kyle was laughing. He was present. He was a dad with his kid. Mario Andretti would later pull out his phone at Indianapolis Motor Speedway and show reporters a video of Kyle smiling and shaking his hand at that very event. Andretti called it the shock of his life. He said everybody knew Rowdy, and that Kyle always brought a smile to the room. That was Tuesday. Kyle Busch was at an arcade with his son, shaking hands with a racing legend, completely alive. 24 hours later, he would be on a bathroom floor, coughing up blood. On Wednesday, May 20th, Kyle drove to the General Motors Charlotte Technical Center in Concord, North Carolina to do simulator work, a completely routine part of his weekly schedule. Chevrolet Cup teams used that facility regularly for engineering and race preparation. Nothing about his being there on a Wednesday afternoon was unusual. At approximately 5:30 in the evening, someone at that facility called 911. The Cabarrus County Sheriff's Office later released the audio of that call. What the caller described was not a sinus cold. He told the dispatcher that there was an individual experiencing severe shortness of breath, that the person was extremely hot and felt like he was going to pass out. He said the individual was coughing up blood. The person was on the bathroom floor, but still conscious. The caller repeated 3 times that he was awake. He asked paramedics to come in without sirens and directed them to a side entrance. Kyle was transported from Concord to a hospital in the Charlotte area. The name of that hospital has never been publicly confirmed. That 911 call is the single most important piece of public medical evidence in this entire story. It's the only moment where we hear what was actually happening to Kyle Busch's body before he died. Everything else, the sinus cold, the injection at Watkins Glen, the cough at Dover, those were signs of something building beneath the surface. The bathroom floor in Concord was the moment it broke through. On Thursday morning, May 21st, a post appeared on Kyle's social media accounts from his family, stating that he had experienced a severe illness and had been hospitalized. It said he would not compete in any activities at Charlotte Motor Speedway that weekend. Richard Childress Racing announced Austin Hill as his replacement for the Coca-Cola 600 and said the number 8 Chevrolet would be ready and waiting for Kyle when he recovered. A few hours later, everything changed. A joint statement from the Busch family, Richard Childress Racing, and NASCAR confirmed that Kyle Busch had died. The statement named Samantha, Brexton, Lennox, his parents, and his brother Kurt. It called Kyle a future Hall of Famer, a rare and generational talent. It said the entire NASCAR family was heartbroken. His cause of death was listed as severe pneumonia that had progressed into sepsis. The following day, NASCAR CEO Steve O'Donnell spoke at Charlotte Motor Speedway. He called Kyle an American badass. He said Kyle would probably be furious if they didn't race that weekend, so they were going to honor him the way he would have wanted, by racing. When a reporter asked for specifics about the cause of death, O'Donnell said they were only 24 hours removed from getting the call and that he owed the family their privacy. He promised transparency would come in time. Then O'Donnell shared one last detail that stopped the room cold. He said Kyle had texted him on Tuesday, the same day he was at the arcade with Brexton, asking what O'Donnell thought about an over 40 rule so Kyle could compete in more Truck Series races the following year. O'Donnell laughed through tears and said his team had actually discussed it in an internal meeting on Wednesday and agreed it was a good idea. That meeting happened while Kyle was collapsing in a building less than 30 minutes away. Richard Childress Racing announced they would retire the number 8 indefinitely and that it would be reserved for Brexton Busch when he's ready to go NASCAR racing. It's the same decision RCR made in 2001 after Dale Earnhardt Sr. died at Daytona, when they parked the number 3 until Austin Dillon was old enough to carry it. Kyle Busch won his last race on a Friday. He celebrated his son's birthday on a Monday. He played arcade games with his kid and shook hands with Mario Andretti on a Tuesday. He collapsed on a Wednesday. He was gone on a Thursday. 11 days. From a routine radio call at Watkins Glen to a hospital in Charlotte. 41 years old. You never know when the last one is going to be. Cherish them all. He was right about that too.